Welcome to Empowered. I'm Elizabeth Naumovski. Let's face it, other than death and taxes, there's one more thing that's inevitable in life: aging. I'm actually personally against it, but I am accepting it. Seriously, though, women get discriminated for many things, and one of them is aging. Ageism is everywhere, especially in our workforce. Today, we're going to discuss the benefits of aging and the connection between your mindset and aging. Ladies, age and aging is a superpower. I'm joined by Helen Hirsh Spence. She's the CEO and founder of Top 60 Over 60, and she's here to change our mindset and how you think. So, Helen, welcome to Empowered. Thank you for being here today.
Thanks for inviting me, Elizabeth.
So let's begin. Most people don't see aging in a positive light, but I gather you see it differently. Why is that?
Well, I've come to see it differently. I can honestly say that I didn't see it this way for much of my life because I'd absorbed all these negative messages from marketers and advertising about anti-aging products and how to look and feel younger. And so I was convinced that it was not something that I would look forward to. But the reality is, as I've gotten older, I see the many benefits that age brings. And they're things that we don't talk about regularly, especially not as women.
So, what is it about age that most people don't get?
Well, I think, first of all, because of what I just mentioned about marketing and so on, we all have a fairly negative perception of what it means to age. We tend to think about vulnerability, frailty. We have images that really come from the last century. Things have changed. We've had, medical advances, technology. So much has changed the lifespan and the trajectory of our lives that we now can live healthier and better. And so, that sign, that yield sign that you always see in front of retirement homes where you have a little old lady and a little old man crossing the street, those are the kinds of images that have been pervasive. And so naturally, we think about growing older as something that is not positive. But in fact, those are very, I'd say, old-fashioned ideas about aging, quite frankly, because, as I say, we're living much longer lives. We're living them healthier for the most part. We have technology and we have opportunities with our longer lives to do so many other things. We have essentially a whole new map of life. That adage, learn, earn, retire. It doesn't work in today's world anymore, but we stick to it. It's an old paradigm and we need to shift it. But we haven't had as many role models as we need. And we still have, even though the population is aging and the demographic shift is upwards with very few babies coming in behind us, so the fertility rates are on a rapid decline, advertisers are still focused on youth. Less than 5% of advertising goes to people who are or directed at people who are over 55. And that's their loss because we're the ones who have the power, the spending power, the wealth. And this segment of the population is just growing dramatically and really quickly. In fact, by 2030, a fifth of Canada's population will be over the age of 65. And one of the fastest growing segments is over the age of 85. So it's about time that we started recognizing that there's a market out there. It's called the silver economy or the longevity market, but we're not getting into it yet. Businesses and organizations have not tapped into the new realities of what it means to grow older today.
Well, one of my favorite role models is Jane Fonda. She is spry. She is full of spunk. She's just full of life. And
Absolutely.
I think she is the perfect role model when it comes to aging. And you're right. You talk about advertisers as well. How many times do you go to the drugstore for Seniors Day? But Seniors Day, senior starts at 55. Like we have to look at marketing and start calling things something different so that we don't have that stigma of old age attached to who we are, because we all look so much better and brighter now. Don't go away. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Empowered. I'm Elizabeth Naumovski. Today's topic, age is a superpower. Helen, before we went to break, we were talking about Jane Fonda. What do you want to say about that?
Well, I think she's a wonderful role model. She's had a lot of help, and she's had a lot of plastic surgery and colored her hair. And she's the first one to admit that she regrets having done that. She would do it differently if she knew today if she knew then what she knows today about aging. And she's much prouder of it, in fact, today than she would have said. And it also, she's a star. What I hope to do through the work that I've been doing is, and I named this Top 60 Over 60. This is a consultancy, really. But what I intended to do, and I hope to still do, is to run an event called Top 60 Over 60, because what I would like to do is highlight all the amazing role models of people who are over the age of 60, who aren't millionaires or aren't stars, because we have so many people who are remarkable, and yet we don't see them or hear enough about them, which is why I've got to get this out this year somehow.
Oh yeah, so you better start now. But
I'm starting.
I want to ask you, why have you devoted the last 7 years to raising awareness about ageism?
Well, ageism is a global health epidemic, and people don't recognize it. They don't even know what ageism is, which is a stereotype or a bias or prejudice based on age. And it goes both directions. We can be prejudiced against younger people as well as older people, but predominantly we refer to ageism when it references older people. The World Health Organization found that 1 out of 2 persons worldwide is biased against older people. And now, with the demographic shift and more people older than ever before, and knowing that ageism has huge, huge detrimental health impacts on individuals, on communities, as well as our economy, because we're not taking advantage of all of these older, capable, competent individuals at a time when we also have a talent shortage. So my business is about raising awareness, because most people don't understand that ageism is simple as, for instance, the comment, you can't teach an old dog new tricks. Well, that's simply false. Our brains continue to develop as we get older, with millions and trillions of connections between brain cells. So we do continue to learn. We are competent. There's so many benefits. I won't get into that now. But ageism has, multiple components. For instance, we have gendered ageism, which affects mostly women. As we both know, probably, that many women try to conceal their age by dyeing their hair or having plastic surgery. I mean, the anti-aging industry in the United States alone is worth $62 billion annually. That's a lot of money spent on making us feel badly about something that's a natural process. So gendered ageism. There's something called elder speak. You've accompanied an older person ever to a doctor's office, and the doctor or healthcare worker speaks to you, who's the younger person accompanying the older person. They're disrespecting that person, who's very capable most times to speak for themselves. There's what I experienced, and what brought me into this whole realm is what's called internalized ageism. I started to believe those tropes and myths about aging, and I bet you do too. You think that you're probably not as competent, or that you're losing your performance edge. But in fact, your life experience gives you a performance edge. There's so many, misunderstandings about what it means to grow older today. And I deliberately always use the term growing older as opposed to getting older, because there's so much learning and there's such an opportunity there. It is literally resilience and growth and opportunity that comes our way as we age. But we don't necessarily see it that way because of the bad press that aging has always gotten. Now, I believe that's going to change in the next little while because of this demographic shift and because we boomers are the predominant segment of society. And the truth of the matter is we have fewer people under the age of 55 coming up than those who are older than 65. So something has to shift.
Well, something does have to shift. And that's why we're having this conversation here, to help get it out there and help make it a positive shift as well. So please don't go away. We'll be right back and we'll have more discussions about aging and what it does for women. Welcome back to Empowered. I'm Elizabeth Naumovski. Today's topic, age is a superpower. Helen, what are some of the typical myths that we believe that are just plain wrong?
Probably one of the biggest myths is that we are technologically unsavvy.
Yeah.
And that's just not the truth. I mean, the reality is that many people in this generation developed a lot of the technology behind behind computers and so on. The other thing is that we're slower. Well, that's not true. At this particular point in our lives, we have a different type of intelligence. When we're younger, it's called fluid intelligence, and there's a bit of rapidity to that. As we grow older, we have what's called crystallized intelligence. And so, although the processing sometimes may be slower, we are able to reason better because we have life experience, more problem-solving skills, and expertise that's developed over time. Other myths have to do with productivity. There is no expiry date on productivity, nor on creativity, nor on innovation. In fact, the best entrepreneurs, according to a number of studies, are those who are over the age of 55. For the reasons that I just mentioned, we're able to use all the experience and put it together in new and different ways. So those are some of the myths that predominate in society. And there are so many others, but I think probably more significant is the fact that people just don't recognize ageism even in everyday speak. For instance, referring to an older person at the checkout counter as sweetheart or dearie or sweetie, or you often hear that especially with older women. When you meet older people and you make assumptions about them, not knowing how to use their cell phone, for instance, or you speak louder because you make the assumption that they can't hear you as well. Those are all very typical. In fact, a study was done in 2020 that showed that people between the ages of 55 and 80 experience ageism on a daily basis, at least one type of ageism. Think about birthday cards, for instance. If you substitute the word age or some making fun of age with something that is racist, you'd never get away with it. But ageism is still the only prejudice that is socially acceptable, unchallenged, and for a large majority of circumstances, it's not even noticed. So ageism is hugely problematic. And because it undermines the well-being of the individuals, this causes tremendous amount of health cost related issues, which we can't afford any longer either. So we need to keep older people active, socially engaged, and we have to eliminate ageism, especially from the workforce, where talk about gendered ageism. This is where women are so disproportionately affected. Mm-hmm. It's called lookism, as I spoke about before.
Okay, so tell us about lookism.
Well, lookism means that if I'm a man and I'm balding and have a beer belly, I can get away with it. But if I'm a woman with graying hair or some wrinkles, somebody might say to me in the workforce, "Oh, Helen, when are you thinking of retiring?" or so. Many people complain about that all the time. It's a gentle way of sort of nudging people out the door. especially at a time when we can't afford to lose people, we should be doing everything to try and retain them, which means we have to reorganize. And I won't go into that, some of the workforce issues that we're dealing with. But that's really a very pervasive. Many women are pushed out. The other reality is because they're pushed out, it takes women twice as long to find jobs than men when they're over the age of 55 or 60. And those aren't necessarily full-time jobs either. And think about it. We women outlive our partners, if they're men, by about 6 to 7 years on average. It's women who end up in greater poverty than any other segment because they're divorced, separated, or widowed.
We
And
also
so,
make 13% less than what our male
oh,
counterparts do. So if
exactly.
they make $1, we make 87 cents to the dollar. We always are in and out of the workforce. And yes, we do live longer. So we really have to make sure that we take care of ourselves and save our money so that when we do retire, we have enough to make sure that we're well taken care of. Don't go away. We'll be right back with more ageism and aging. Welcome back to Empowered. I'm Elizabeth Naumovski. Today's topic, age is a superpower, and I'm joined by Helen Hirsh Spence. She's the CEO and founder of Top 60 Over 60, and she's here to change your mindset and how you think. So let's talk about that. What's the connection between mindset and aging?
It's everything, let me tell you. And I would not have believed it if I hadn't done the research that I've done. But it's very conclusive that if you have a positive mindset about aging, you can live up to 7.5 years longer, you heal faster, and your cognitive decline is much slower, if at all. So there's a huge connection between thinking optimistically and positively about growing older and just thinking that it's the worst thing that could possibly happen to you.
So Helen,
So
let's talk about some of the benefits of aging.
gladly. So I mentioned before crystallized intelligence. So that's one thing. As we age, we have a much broader perspective. Our judgment improves. We tend to lose our egos as we age. So we get into, Maslow's hierarchy of needs. We're into generativity at this stage as we get older. We care more about other generations, and we're not nearly as competitive as we may have been when we were younger. There's something called the U curve of happiness. It's a reference to the fact that at the beginning of life, as children, we tend to be very happy. We go through mid stages of life when we have all these challenges with financial restraints, families, jobs. And then at the end of life, we again become happier. And that's referred to as the U curve of happiness. And it's a known fact. And unfortunately, not many people realize that it is. But if you speak to individuals who are older, you'll find that they'll say that this is one of their best times in their life. They recognize who they are. They're much more self-aware. They're more empathetic. And they're at a point where they can give back. And I think we all know that, gratitude, kindness, makes us feel better and healthier, and is also good for other people. So there are enormous benefits to growing older.
So
We
Helen,
also, what? It just occurred to me. There's something else that we also have, and that's greater focus, greater on-task focus. And we have bihemispheric processing that we do much better as we get older. There are all sorts of changes that take place, and they're not necessarily decline. Of course, our bodies are going to give out. Just like old cars, something goes wrong. I'm recovering from my second knee replacement, but I'm doing really well, and I'll go climbing mountains in 3 weeks when I go away.
Good for
So,
you. Good for you. Helen, I want to talk to you about your superpower. What have you discovered or uncovered about growing older that most women just don't realize?
um, it's optimism and gratitude, I'd say, that I've discovered. I'm seriously um, at a point where on a daily basis, I look around me and I'm grateful for everything that I have, especially realizing how much I have and how privileged I am. And I'm also very optimistic. I'm not dreading the next few years. I'm looking forward to doing what I'm doing now, but doing it better and learning all the things that I still haven't learned, and making connections with other people. Social engagement is so critical, staying healthy. And all of those things contribute to, to growing older and growing better.
Helen, thank you so much. Optimism and kindness seems to be a growing trend discussed on the show. I really appreciate you
Oh,
being here today and sharing. Thank you so much.
and my pleasure. Thank you.
Well, you've just heard. Helen says aging isn't a countdown, it's a count up to unparalleled value and wisdom. Aging is the triumph for living. I'm Elizabeth Naumovski, and I'm here to empower you and make frugality fashionable. Thank you so much for watching. Bye for now.